And good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the LOOPCast. Today joined by Erika and Josh. How are we feeling today, guys?
I feel great. I had a great day yesterday.
I'm not sick of winning.
Mm,
I want more winning.
So
this
let's
feels good.
let's go raw and authentic on this show. We're going to be talking about the Department of Government Efficiency. Erika, please, can you say again what you thought the acronym for that was
The
pronounced as?
DOGE. Well, I thought it was doggy because the little corgi thing. What's that dog?
Yeah.
That was like the little meme dog. And so I was like, oh, doggy.
Erika,
But it's Doge.
You can't be saying that when Bitcoin's at 90K, okay? I'm doing phenomenal right now. And
all right, here's the thing.
I own some Doge.
You know, Tom knows this kind of stuff because he's on the internet all day.
That's right.
Okay, and he's hip with the lingo and stuff like that. And I know it because I'm like, I wonder what the heck that is. I will Google this to find out so I don't sound stupid when I say doggy.
To be fair, though,
Did you
the amount of times, Erika, you read a lot.
Stupid? He totally.
I'm going to say, no. I'm going to go on a
I did.
limb here and say out of the three of us, Erika, you probably read the most.
At one point. Yeah.
Unquestionably.
Certainly.
The biggest reader.
And the percentage of stuff that she reads is quality. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Right. And here's the point that I'm trying to make, which I did all the time as a kid. I would read stuff that I understood what it meant, but I didn't know how to pronounce it. And then when I came to conversation, I'd say it, and then I'd sound really dumb. Like people would think, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." No, but I read about it and understand it. So, Erika, is that potentially?
Oh my gosh, I think that's exactly what's going on here. And this has happened to me my whole life because I read a lot, but I like to read by myself because I'm an introvert and I don't like people. So I grew up thinking that archipelago, I still can't say the word archipelago. It's archipelago or I don't even know still because I read the word when I was really little.
An arpeggio?
No, like an archipelago, like of islands coming off of Alaska.
Like
the
Indonesia.
Archipelago or the Gulag archipelago. I still have trouble with long words and short words like Doge. But now I know, and now I'm in with the kids and the Bitcoin guys.
The only reason I really know Doge is because I had a friend in college that I think was able to buy a Lexus with Doge money. I think he bought it like right before it exploded, and then he sold it right at the top, and now he's driving around in a Lexus that I call the Batmobile. Shout out to my boy Phil.
Wow.
Hey, Phil. Good job.
So, yeah, I don't know if that makes me any better or worse. However, again, we are sponsored on Air Talent now, and we have a company to share with you. Shout out to our friends at Charity Mobile. Now more than ever, it's important to buy the way you believe and stop doing business with companies who don't appreciate you or what you stand for. It's time to switch to the pro-life phone company, Charity Mobile. They have the same reliable nationwide coverage as the big guys, and they send 5% of your monthly plan price to your favorite pro-life, pro-family charity at no extra cost to you. Charity Mobile offers a variety of plans from unlimited data to talk and text only, and also a variety of devices from the latest 5G smartphones to basic flip phones. There are no contracts, and their friendly live customer service team is based right here in the U.S., I believe in Kentucky. While supplies last, new customers can get a free phone with free activation, free standard shipping, and a free travel charging kit as part of their special Christmas offer when you use the promo code LOOPCast. Go to CharityMobile.com and enter the promo code LOOPCast at checkout. That's CharityMobile.com, promo code LOOPCast. Tell them we sent you. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Charity Mobile. That being said, thank you. I'm really, we'll see if I can get back to the right screen here. It doesn't look like it. You can't say that before I do that. Okay. So we're getting the equivalent of, the president gets elected and now you do your kind of schoolyard draft. All the kids in the playground line up. They all say, hey, I really want to be picked first on the kickball team. You need to put your slugger in there. You always got to have your speed guy. And so we're starting to get some picks.
I was always the fat kid. I was always hoped to be not to be the last one picked, Yeah. That was the goal.
Josh, don't lie. You were the cleanup hitter at kickball, no doubt. You probably had a rocket on your leg.
Ultimate Frisbee, I was actually pretty darn good in college.
Ultimate Frisbee? You were a Frisbee guy?
Dog. Yeah.
That's awesome.
The same guy.
Very good.
Don't you think soccer's kind of fruity and you're throwing around Frisbees?
Frisbee is cool.
Soccer's boring as watching.
Okay.
All right, Frisbee guy. You go throw around
Don't take the bait,
disc.
Josh. Don't take the bait. We got a lot of bait.
We have a lot of bait today.
Let's go.
There's a lot of different picks and controversy around them. Let's start with the first one, my personal favorite maybe. We have a new department. So when Trump said he's going to slash things, he actually is subtracting by addition. He added two of the guys, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. I have a little bit of background on both of them because again, suffering from maybe if you read but don't know how to pronounce. I just thought I'd give a little bit of bio on both. Okay, so Elon Musk, if you haven't heard, big time billionaire, big SpaceX guy. He's African American. He's South African American entrepreneur. Cool. He's founded PayPal, which he no longer owns. Owner of X, founder of SpaceX and Tesla Motors. And in January 2022, he apparently passed Bezos as the richest man in the world. Developed Starlink, endorsed Donald Trump for president, as we all saw. Now, something that did come to mind with this, he suggested this. I don't think he came up with, maybe he helped come up with the name. No, actually, no, he definitely helped come up with the name. As you saw, there's a lot of government waste. And one of his most famous projects, he bought the former Twitter, now X, fired about 80% of the staff. And now the app is more popular than ever. So I'd say that's a pretty good track record for the job.
Let that sink in.
Let that sink in. And then for Vivek, we have born to Indian parents in Cincinnati, received bachelor's at Harvard, law degree at Yale, started a hugely successful pharmaceutical company, Rovient Services, started getting involved in politics when the woke political religion began influencing the corporate world. 2022, he started the Anti-Work Strive Asset Management, LLC. He's also written a book called Woke Inc. He ran for president in the primaries, dropped out with a full endorsement towards Donald Trump. His greatest contribution, in my opinion, was exposing Nikki Haley, who publicly not going to be a part of this administration. He and J.D. Vance are friends from law school at Yale. So,
okay, so did you see left-wing Senator Elizabeth Warren reacting to this news that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to be two people in charge of this new position of Office of Government Efficiency?
Yeah.
And she got really upset that she said, the Office of Government Efficiency is off to a great start with split leadership. 2 people to do the work of 1 person. Yeah, that seems really efficient, said Senator Elizabeth Warren. But wait a minute.
Wait, which house did she tweet that from?
So conservative activist Andy Roth just decided to, I don't know, pluck something right from the veritable pages of Wikipedia, where he noted before the 18th century, Cherokee political leadership, much like that of neighboring Muskogee and Natchez tribes, were dual or shared by 2 chiefs. I would think that Senator Pocahontas would be perfectly okay with having 2 chiefs in charge of DOGE.
Oh man, I think the left's heads are exploding right now with this news. I mean, he's doing what he said he was going to do. Department of Government Efficiency, the DOGE, or I call it the doggy. And they're just going to advise. And I like, too, that it's being placed outside of the government. It's not like he's creating a new cabinet position here.
That's a good point.
This is going to be outside of the federal government.
Yeah.
So a third-party observer
blue ribbon
advising,
basically.
A blue ribbon, and they're going to be advising the president and his cabinet members as they hopefully can slash and burn a lot of this fourth branch of government bureaucratic state.
You know, I think that's a great thing and a great plan. But I also think that White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles is a very wise woman. And Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk are entrepreneurial billionaire types who have like 1 trillion ideas at once. And that's the last thing you need in the White House, in the West Wing. Like, you're trying to execute on things like, okay, but what if we do this? We'll send a rocket to Mars. And then, guys, we need to get the votes in the Senate for this bill. So put them outside the White House, give them fancy cameras and the blue ribbon thing, and go for it and do the hard work.
Smart.
I was reading today in Politico that I think Elon asked to be involved in the meeting in which Biden meets with Trump. I think it's today.
Yeah, this morning.
I think Trump had to establish some healthy boundaries and be like, yeah, man, I don't think.
This is just me and Joe, Elon.
Yeah.
That's going to be a no for me on this one, dog. Although, interestingly enough, though, as per custom, the First Lady of the United States extended an olive branch to the now going to be future First Lady again, Melania Trump, and Jill invited her over for a tea, which is like what the custom is, that's what always happens, right? Well, this time Melania said no. After all, it was Jill's husband that sent in troops to raid her home and her son's room. So, no, we're not going to sit down and have tea and pretend everything's fine. I actually applaud Melania. This whole idea of keeping on to customs only for its own sake when they get to smash customs at every turn. No. no, we're not gonna reward that kind of baloney. I applaud her for it.
Interesting. I know that Biden's actually getting a lot of well, you remarked that Pelosi has now shifted her blame to Biden for not stepping down, but that he's seen as kind of a relic of keeping norms and procedures, and even in his treatment of the passage of power here, after Kamala called him Hitler, he's still like, well, I'm going to meet its tradition custom. It seems like people on the left are getting tired of that, although ironically, partially why they lost is because they lost something Joe Biden possessed. I mean, you said that he'd probably perform better. So,
yeah, I mean, we'll see. Yeah, but I mean, like, did you see what Nancy Pelosi? She did an interview over the weekend, and she was just getting so furious over what happened with the election fallout, and she explained the plan, to the people, and like, she's like, no, I mean, he was supposed to quit. Back in January, would have had plenty of time to have a primary. I agree. If you're going to make a decision whether or not to push the guy off the stage, January is when you do it. You allow an open primary. And then even at the last moment when you do it that way, her plan was to have an open convention and have like some sort of way of getting people to vote for who they think. And then at the convention, you kind of, and
you weed out
what happened to all of Nancy Pelosi's wonderful plans. Joe Biden saw what was happening, saw that he was being pushed off stage, so he endorsed Kamala Harris 30 minutes after he was shoved out. And boy, did she spit nails at that one. Did not like that at all.
Nope. The House divided, cannot stand, and they crashed and burned.
It's like, the guy might have, be, and maybe it was Jill who wrote it, but like, again, people who get to be this point where they're sort of suffering with a little bit of dementia, that doesn't mean they're completely, gone in every way. And he had a moment of lucidity. He's like, "Oh, is that what you're going to pull on me?" Mm-hmm.
So,
Kamala.
Back to slashing some norms. I have a I have a tweet here from Elon. So here's a possibility we could see from the Department of Government Efficiency. Anytime the public thinks we're cutting something important or not, cutting something wasteful, just let us know. We will also have a leaderboard for the most insanely dumb spending of your tax dollars. This will be both extremely tragic and extremely entertaining. Could you imagine?
I can't wait.
It's going to look like.
Oh man!
Now
classic
I know that there's some people,
material.
Right? Oh my gosh! Thank you, Elon Musk. Is going to be great for the show. But I think most people understand that there is colossal waste going on in the government. I always like to bring examples to prove that. I think that there are some people, and we're going to talk Department of Education as well, that are just concerned with shaking up the status quo. And you see this in a lot of Trump's picks. Sorry, what are you going to say, Josh?
Well, no, just like on the government efficiency stuff. I mean, so I see this kind of stuff all the time where people are tweeting out, like, I mean, some of these things are kind of crazy, right?
I have examples, yeah.
Okay, well, give us a few. I think the audience would love to hear some of them.
Yes, so I went, because exactly what I'm saying is like people are scared of change, but I'm like, this is going to be the best change ever, even if very minor things are done. So some things that I found. The CBO revealed that at least 1,264 federal programs and bureaus have expired authorizations, but still received $516 billion in funding for fiscal year 2024. And that's not pennies. That's billions of dollars. The Government Accountability Office estimates the federal government wastes $247 billion in taxpayer money each year. The Department of Treasury reported that $24.5 billion in, quote, unreconciled transactions in the past, meaning that it spent $25 billion on unknown items. No one knows what they are. The Department of Agriculture employees misuse government-issued credit cards, spending millions on personal purchases like concert tickets, tattoos, lingerie, and car payments.
Lingerie?
$332 million was spent on transgender monkey research. The NIH, National Institute of Health, spent part of a $2.7 million grant to study Russian cats walking on a treadmill. The Department of Defense ruined $170 million of military equipment by leaving it outside. The U.S. Agency for International Development spent $6 million to promote tourism in Egypt, not here in Egypt. The SBA gave over $200 million to music artists like Post Malone, Chris Brown, and dispensers for aircraft at over 80 times commercial price.
Okay, that one is the most obvious, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why is our military, the Pentagon, paying 80 times market rate for soap dispensers? Why is it that it costs $80,000 for a toilet, and the hammer is like $400? Like, there finally one movie let in on this. I think like you don't really think it costs us $400 to buy a hammer, do you? I mean, obviously they do this so that they can kind of cover up some of the money that they're spending in other places, like the secret stuff or whatever, right? So I mean, that's not like ideal, but like at least I'm like, okay, so the military basically creates like a slush fund because they bought $700 hammers and $25,000 toilets, and say this extra money then could go like start a coup in some other country, right? That people, I think Americans are like not super happy with, but they like sort of get it, right? The real question is like, why are we spending $400,000 for the University of Tennessee to study whether or not we can better serve LGBT library users? And why are we spending a cool $1 million to figure out whether or not alcohol or bigoted neighbors are, causing rural gay couples to slap each other around? Like you start seeing these stuff and you're like, what in the world? And then you start to, again, the point I like to make at it is this, you can complain about why the system does what it does, but the purpose of a system is what it does, right? So you have to ask yourselves, just like, you see this thing like, wait, why did someone pay like $1 million for a piece of art that was just a banana that was duct taped to a canvas? That's stupid. That's a waste of money. And then you realize, oh, maybe this is an elaborate form of money laundering. That like, if you want to give $1 million to somebody, you get them to buy a piece of art. The same way these politicians write a book and they sell, and it's sold for $30, and they get like a $100,000 advance, and it sells like 500 books. And that his own political action committee buys up the books, and it's all just kind of a way to launder money. So does the University of Tennessee really need $1 million to study, the impact of gay, LGBT library users? No, it's the federal government that the Democrats are using our taxpayer money to reward their friends. That's what's going on with all these programs. Like, people need to wake up on this stuff. It's like, gosh, I can't believe our government's spending this money or wasting it so much. They're not wasting it. That's the purpose of it. They are giving it to their friends. It's not waste. It's corruption.
Can you pull up my pork map? I want everyone to see the visual.
I'll show the pork map. Two things, Josh. Quick correction. I would not only say that Democrats are doing this. Republicans are for sure doing this.
I know.
It seems like
that's how
everyone in government is.
Democrats
obsessed.
wrote the book on this. I mean, give me a break.
What is on? I'm not seeing anything on the pork map.
You don't see anything on the pork map?
No.
All right. Give it a second. It's a little map.
Oh yeah, here it is. Here it is.
This is one of my favorite websites. You can go in. So look at all the little piggy heads there. This is called the pork map. And this organization goes in and they research all of the sort of, the strangest gifts to friends that happen all over the country. And you can just see, someone gets elected from, obviously, like the Northeast is among the worst offenders. Yep, probably.
Oh, it's all pink. You can't even see anything over here.
It's all pink. It's all pork.
It's also where a lot of people live too. So.
It's also a lot of people. Yeah. So we follow the population, but you'll see everything from like $9.6 million. And some of these are good. So they're going to build like a fire station here in Hamden. So Rosa DeLauro, one of our representatives in the swamp, she gets $9.5 million for the town for a project that probably is going to cost like $3.5 million. But this is one of my favorite maps when I'm researching this kind of thing. What are the favors being given in your county? You just go to the pork map, porkmap.com. Yeah,
shout out to pork
good
map.
resource. And it's pigs, so it's kind of cute.
Masters of inefficiency.
Also,
yes.
we get a little pushback from Tony in the chat. Shout out Tony.
Interesting comment.
Worked in the Pentagon for 5 years, saying that it's not how slush fund works. So Tony, hit me on the email. Let me know what you think, because there's two things going on. There's Department of Government Efficiency, of course, where like you see a lot of these small pork things. I think there's general dissatisfaction with the military and the military industrial complex in terms of that cozy relationship and a lot of money being thrown at other countries. So I'd be curious your perspective on all this. So hit the email. But one that really got people going was the new Defense Secretary pick, Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth, and funny, you watch what people are saying. Oh, this was announced. They're like, oh, he's a Fox News host. Yes, that might be true. He also graduated from Princeton and has a couple Bronze Stars, served in Afghanistan, Iraq, as well as Guantanamo Bay. He
advocating for veterans for 20 years. I mean,
right. So we're not talking about some Joe Schmo. Oh, he just hosts on Fox, but seems like he's been very vocal about removing DEI, woke stuff from the military. I think the reason this outrages people, and there's a great Politico headline today on that, was like, They really thought they were going to get him by saying that, we talked to an anonymous lobbyist in the defense industry, and he said, "Who the F is this guy?"
Best endorsement I've heard so far.
What a gotcha moment. Yeah.
Hey, let me share that. I was dying when I saw that. I was like, okay, you're going to make me like this guy more. One assessment was more blunt. "Who the F is this guy?" said a defense industry lobbyist who was granted anonymity to offer candid views. The lobbyist said they had hoped for someone who actually has extensive background in defense. That would be a good start. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I love that. Like you said, it's an endorsement for me.
Well, and again, if you just think he's just a dumb Fox News anchor, here's a clip of him talking about, what's going on in the world and the threats we pose. And sounds pretty smart to me.
Let's go right to the source.
It's in the book, the exact amount of years, but in the past X number of years, 10, 12, 15, the Pentagon has a perfect record in all of its war games against China. We lose every time.
Oof.
Inside the Pentagon war games. We know what our real capability. You see, we didn't even get to this part of the war on warriors. The military-industrial complex, the way we procure weapon systems. We're always, the way our system works, the way our bureaucratic system works, where the speed of weapons procurement works, we're always a decade behind in fighting the last war. Whereas China, we have what did Rumsfeld say? You go to the war, the army you have. We have the army. China's building an army specifically dedicated to defeating the United States of America. That is their strategic outset. Take hypersonic missiles. So if our whole power projection platform is aircraft carriers and the ability to project power that way strategically around the globe, and yeah, we have a nuclear triad and all of that, but a big part of it. And if 15 hypersonic missiles can take out our 10 aircraft carriers in the first 20 minutes of a conflict, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And if they've already got us by the balls economically, which you pointed out very well, with our grid, culturally, there's plenty of elite capture going on around the globe. And then microchips and everything. Why do they want Taiwan? They want to corner the market completely on the technological future. We can't even drive our cars without the stuff we need out of China these days. They have a full spectrum, long-term view of not just regional but global domination, and we have our heads up our asses.
Pardon the French on that, but I saw that clip and I thought to myself, maybe I'm glad I have a 14-year-old car. My goodness, this guy's got something figured out. So, am I endorsing everything he's ever said? No, but man, smart. Sounds like he's got his head screwed on straight and understand with wide open eyes the threats that we face in the world today. And it sounds like a breath of fresh air. Now, of course, there are going to be those, in the media who keep referring to him just as a Fox News anchor. They, as you say, they don't mention that, he was a Bronze Star twice over winner. Yep. And, again, it just gets to me like this is the same people who didn't actually cover the fact that, under the current Defense Department leadership, we had multiple soldiers who are now under investigation for indiscreet activity while in uniform, specifically posting photos of themselves wearing dog-themed bondage masks while in uniform.
Yeah.
So go ahead and tell me about how it would be so embarrassing to have a Fox News anchor. Give me
fair
a break.
Point. Yeah. I think that the appointment here, again, it's Trump fulfilling kind of two promises. And one is that his foreign policy is going to be peace through strength, right? So, you get people in there who the message is to foreign powers, you cross this line and we'll blow the heck out of you. So peace through strength, but also to shake it up. And I think acknowledging by appointing a man who's an outsider but who has experience in the military, he's putting the Pentagon on notice. And I would love to see like every general 3 stars and up fired. Like, let's clean it out and turn their military around and get back to that peace through strength that Trump has promised. So some people are saying in the conservative media, they're like, okay, well, he's appointing war hawks. They're critical also of the Marco Rubio possibility of that appointment. They're like, okay, this is all war hawk and we want to go more isolationist and withdraw. But I think these appointments are pointing to Trump's conviction that America is, for better or for worse, an imperial power. There's no dialing back the clock to like 1900 and getting back to like, we're all just going to go pre-World War I here. But we have a place on the world stage. And if we want to keep it, and we certainly don't want anyone else to take it, we have to have this kind of approach. The 4 years of weakness and surrender and just laying down under Biden were disastrous for America on the world stage. So I'm excited about this. Yes, his personal life is colorful, not great, do not imitate. But in terms of his policy and his belief when it comes to the role of the military, this is a breath of fresh air, like you said. Now, did you see the Pentagon? What the Pentagon is doing after, they're not welcoming their new commander-in-chief with open arms by any stretch of the imagination. The headline on CNN for the Pentagon, in response to all this, Pentagon officials discussing how to respond if Trump issues controversial orders. And of course, the first order that they're anticipating is, oh my gosh, Trump is going to deploy active duty troops domestically, and he's going to turn the military. So that's their headline. But then the second one is this. They are also considering how to respond should Trump decide to fire large swaths of apolitical staffers and people in the I'm like, guys, wake up. He's the freaking commander-in-chief. He can fire who he wants. That's the Article 2 role. Like, this is the president. And their whole thing is, oh my gosh, how will we respond if he wants to fire these unelected bureaucrats in the Pentagon? Well, you know what? You say bye-bye because he's the commander-in-chief. And that's the new dawn and the new day that I think is exciting. And I hope he can effect that. I hope that they will remember their job, which is to follow orders.
And Tony brought up a good point too on Mattis. Like, the reason General Mattis was fired is because he didn't listen to orders.
Right.
And the thing too, I think the online criticism are missing here, or maybe they just understand but don't like, is that the American people sent Donald Trump back to office with an agenda to accomplish, right? Get immigration back under control, get the economy back to where it needs to be, American energy independence, and peace through strength. Withdrawing from forever wars, not getting in pointless conflicts, and establishing like a real confidence in the military again. And so on that fourth point, what's happening here is we're not sending someone to go appoint insider general industrial complex connected people. We're sending in someone to shake it up. We're sending in someone to fire it because the status quo has not been good. I mean, you want to talk about Lloyd Austin for a second here. I mean, there's plenty of funny pictures out there of him masked up. I mean, I have
super masked up.
Masked up is an understatement. I mean, if you just take a look at the new defense secretary comparison here, Lloyd Austin, he is basically what people traditionally would have put in that position, right? This is, of course, new management coming in. But I think if I look at some of the failures that were very frustrating to me, just as an American watching, I mean, the with Afghanistan pullout is one of the most ashamed moments I've ever been in leadership at any level of any.
That's
any
one.
kind. Number one. Number two, Lloyd Austin just disappeared for 5 days.
3 weeks.
Yeah. I was like, that's a minimum.
First it was
because
5
he had
days,
a medical
and then it was
procedure.
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, he just didn't tell anyone. I mean, this is someone who's in charge of literally the defense of the nation, just being like, I had a medical procedure and I was embarrassed to tell people. That's basically what happened. And then
a president or a defense secretary should never be able to say that. Anyone else in the country, whatever.
No, and never. And then, I mean, on a final point, you talk to people in the military. What are they most frustrated about? They're most frustrated about, and he talks about this in many clips, walking on eggshells, being a part of things that are unnecessary to the defense of the nation. So drag queens on Air Force bases, I'd like to see those gone as soon as someone steps into office. Clearly, that was not done under the status quo of the previous administration. Lloyd Austin oversaw them and defended them. So I don't understand I do understand the pushback. People are scared because they're coming for their jobs, and they should be scared they're coming from their jobs because we're going to rebuild basically what was the premier fighting force in the world. Now, look, as the resident, anti-war, probably isolationist tendency person on this podcast, I'm not thrilled with some of Hegseth, his stance on Iran. He's openly advocated in bombing Iran. I think that's insane. I don't think he should be doing that. His personal life is colored, as Erika said. I believe he's had an affair with a Fox staffer and now joined families. Not great either. However, am I willing now at this point to roll the dice and shake things up? Absolutely. Yeah. I just listened to how many generals lie about Trump calling people Nazis to try to keep him out of office. I listened to 51 intelligence officers lie about the Russia hoax to try to keep Trump out of office. There's clearly not enough accountability at the government level at large, but especially within our military. And I think firing no one over Afghanistan is the first and last thing that I want to see when it comes to getting rid of these people.
And frankly, because as you mentioned, the military doing DEI, having drag shows, no one being fired over the Afghan debacle.
Yeah.
Then you start to understand why lots of people with, military families have actively discouraged their own children and grandchildren from entering into the military. They don't want their sons and grandsons wearing the nation's uniform because they think it's gone completely woke. And you know what? When it goes woke, people die. The purpose of a military is you hope that you don't have to use it. But if you do use it, you want it to be lethal.
Lethal.
It's not a DEI stuff. This is not funny. Like, there are people that are going to die if we don't turn this ship around. So the Pentagon is a disaster. And if everyone in the defense industry and everyone on Capitol Hill is squawking and complaining, boy, that's probably a good pick then.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. One potential miss. We have Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security.
Here she comes.
I wasn't thrilled about this pick. I think dogs in America weren't thrilled about this pick.
The doggies.
A little bit of background before the reactions.
That everyone freaks out about the dog thing. Who cares? I've shot my dog too. Like,
Josh, you're gonna get canceled. Whoa. You gotta relax, dude. You shot your dog?
Josh, you shot your dog?
Yes, of course. That's what you do when you live in the rural area. Dogs, time for the dog to die. It was 2 for Tuesday. Both of them are for.
Okay, wow. Josh coming out
this
on record.
This is not what I had on my
Kristi
bingo
Noem.
Card for Wednesday, November 13th.
Well, it's too expensive to go to the vet to give him a blue pill or whatever. Just come on.
All right, don't bring your dogs to Petoskey.
Put your dog down.
Right. Okay, so background on Kristi Noem, for those unaware, governor of South Dakota, former state legislator, 4-term congresswoman. She rejected masking and vaccine mandates during COVID. She endorsed Donald Trump during the 2023 primaries, has been a longtime ally of Trump, and has been tough on border policies. Most well-known for some inaccuracies in her book, namely saying she met Kim Jong-un when she did not, and shooting a family dog.
So weird.
She also hasn't been great on some pro-life stuff. Or was it the boys and girls sports
Trans
thing?
stuff she was bad on. She kind of got decent near at the end or whatever, but
after
I don't ever trust her.
This I guess I just don't trust her at this point.
That's what I'm saying.
Probably why I'm not thrilled at that being the Department of Homeland Security pick. However, at least she'll listen to Trump.
And again, part of the concern.
It seemed like out of left field. So Josh, I was going to say, did you see this coming in terms of Kristi Noem for Homeland Security? It just seemed bizarre to have a South Dakota governor in charge.
Oh, it's a clunker, especially since, the rumors, of course, that she had a sexual relationship with former Trump 2016 campaign manager Corey Lewandowski. So it's like, what is going on here? Like, you would think, especially that, and then like the book coming out with the dog, everyone freaking out about that, but also lying about meeting,
Kim Jong-un thing was bad. That was worse.
Like that. It's just like, why are you saying
really
that? It's
bad.
like really stupid. Mm-hmm. So just a lot of missteps. I mean, look, she barely, she won the governor's race, but like not by a lot. Like so she's not like an electoral powerhouse either. I mean, you expect Republicans to win in South Dakota, and she underperformed electorally. So she's gorgeous. Yeah, she talks
hair.
about it. Yeah, she talks about America, and you're like, hey, all right. But like, what? I'm in charge of Homeland Security? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, Hegseth has a tattoo of Deus Vult on his bicep. So if we're going at,
he is ridiculously handsome, but he's obviously extremely qualified. I mean, it's like, So,
but I wouldn't go.
Well, actually, though, Chris, what do you say his name? Chris Shaliza or whatever used to be in CNN. He was like, "Well, what's going on with this? Kristi Noem and Pete Hegseth. He's picking people who look good, and can talk on TV." And he was kind of, denouncing that, or it's like, look, actually, you want somebody who's competent for the job, obviously, but being able to communicate in media is incredibly important to be able to succeed in your mission.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
So that Pete Hegseth has a lot of experience talking and explaining his positions in front of hostile audiences, or what on TV. That's a good thing. I mean,
it's a must-have at this point in American history, and rebuilding trust. I mean, it is a very smart move, and I think same thing with Rubio for Secretary of State, which I don't think we've confirmed that he's actually going to be the nominee for Secretary of State yet. Is that true?
Yeah, there hasn't. I mean,
All
it's been rumored out there, and everyone just accepted it as fact, but there hasn't been an official Trump statement on that. But I do think J.D. Vance is cheering for that, because if there was any neocon that J.D. Vance wanted at Secretary of State, it would be Marco Rubio. Why? Not just because they're friends in the Senate. You get Marco Rubio out of the Senate and into Foggy Bottom, then you've got a vacancy in the Senate seat there, giving Florida Governor Ron DeSantis an opportunity to place somebody in that Senate seat. Now, my guess, if that happens, if Rubio does go to state, DeSantis will pick his chief of staff or some placeholder to hold that position for 2 years. And then DeSantis himself will run for that Senate seat, and everyone in Florida will know he's running for it. And he'll get that. And he'll take office January of 2027. And it's kind of hard to immediately turn around and run for president and just kind of let J.D. Vance run. So J.D. Vance, again, like maybe 4D chess move here.
Wow.
I bet he's big on having Rubio there.
I was so not built for politics, but that was beautiful. Beautiful thing.
Immediately what I thought of.
And Josh indeed was. One back to the point on being good in front of camera, though, which I think is super underrated. Obviously, you have the example of Ronald Reagan going to Hollywood and then politics, which worked great. But I remember talking to Mark Morgan, too, the former, I think he was involved with ICE, former on the border. It was a great interview, just kind of get a sense of what's going on at the border situation. And I remember asking about Chris Wray. I was like, what's
he's like be out soon.
He's gone. I mean, they actually announced a new CIA director. Trump announced a new CIA, Ratcliffe, I think. But anyway, he was like
Chris Wray's FBI.
Right. But something that I think he said that I found interesting about Chris Wray is like, I don't think Chris Wray is necessarily like a bad dude or anything like that. I just think that he is not built for modern leadership, needing to basically run PR ahead of time. You need to control issues, command issues, and he's basically let things, for better or for worse, if you agree or don't agree. Right. Mm-hmm. And by the time you're playing defense, it's too late.
Right. So, he doesn't get out ahead of things.
Just reacts to things. Right.
Right. And I've thought a lot about that now, of like what's been successful, especially in this last campaign cycle, is commanding issues. I remember even when, they almost killed J.D. Vance's candidacy basically by saying he's weird and he did something with a couch or whatever. And you're just like, what the heck? And then, of course.
By the way, did you see the exit polling of the four candidates, presidential candidates and vice presidential candidates? J.D. Vance was got the highest approval rating of Americans.
It's amazing.
Right.
Okay, but go on, Tom. I didn't.
No worries. Part of the point that I was trying to make too, and J.D. Vance would be a great example of it, is he just commanded and took back the issue. He didn't hide from that or not address it. He immediately said, this is like a hilarious attack. They have no substance. And then he went on to go take on the most aggressive of all media organizations. So if you think about it, the people in these head positions, they need to be able to command issues. And I actually think back to the Biden administration, many of the people in his orbit and Marcus. I mean, there's no way to defend what he was doing, but I can't really think of one really standout, maybe other than Pete Buttigieg, who, again, I think didn't do a good job, but at least was more media savvy than a lot of the other ones. Got out ahead and actually convinced the American people that they were doing a good job. Because by the time it got to election season, it was almost a given that everything was a mess and that nothing is going well. I think most average Americans saw that, or at least felt that.
Right. I would say, though, you mentioned the media. CNN is basically announcing that they're going to be doing a bunch of layoffs, firing a lot of high-priced talent that they have on their show. And then MSNBC, Comcast has announced that basically floated that they're considering selling MSNBC. Now, some of these conservatives, like Jack, how do you say his name? Posobiec, and others are like honestly trying to make phone calls to raise money to go ahead and try to make a bid to buy MSNBC. Now, before you laugh here, John Podhoretz, he's a neocon par excellence. He goes, so I've heard from a couple of these conservatives that they might be interested in buying MSNBC, which is interesting because Comcast is a publicly traded company. And if it puts a price tag on the channel and a conservative is the highest bidder, it might represent an actual actionable breach of fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders not to take the offer of the highest bidder. He says, I don't want to scare MSNBC staffers or talent or anything, but I kind of do actually.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, did you see the ratings for the individual shows? So after the election,
just in the tank.
Just Joy Reid down 55%, Chris Hayes down 47%, Morning Joe down 30. Chris Hayes.
I don't even know.
That was funny. All right, Morning Joe down 39.6%, Andrea Mitchell down 30. I mean, this is just such bad ratings. They should all be fired. They need to redo the whole thing.
Josh, do you have any money laying around?
The Josh scenario.
Let me get a wallet out here.
I know.
Yeah. Are you sitting on generational wealth that we could tap into here? Now, I have one more question before I want to move on to the next section. So the funny thing is people are kind of criticizing these political appointments. I think most people maybe new to politics or don't fully understand like that this happens every cycle. So I have a question for you, Josh. Is this usually how it's done? Is it usually released before they're actually in office, kind of let out through press conferences to fanfare and debates? Like this is a standard. And then also, what is quote unquote being qualified? Because like I know for a fact Pete Buttigieg was made transportation secretary because he says he likes trains and the game Ticket to Ride. So is this a standard? Like, do you just put in your friends kind of thing? Like, how does this usually go?
Yeah. So, I mean, the appointments are made, obviously the president of the United States has to, ride or die with his team, right? And so you need to pick people who you think are qualified to do the job. And obviously you don't want to do something that's embarrassing. First of all, they do these announcements in the months leading up to, your inauguration. In fact, the whole point of it is you want to give the chance for, the media and the American people to vet these candidates in case something, blows up. I mean, Bill Clinton, by the time he got to Janet Reno, she was the third pick for attorney general. The previous two picks had all hired illegal aliens to be their nannies. Ruh-roh, raggy. Not good for your top official to do that. So, but anyway, so yeah, that's why you do these things, so that anything that could, these skeletons that kind of come to the forefront in that time. And then by the time the new Congress is sworn in on January 3rd, you have the ability to have, and it'll be a Republican Senate then.
Right.
Then they can start the process of actually holding hearings even before Inauguration Day on Homeland Security and Defense Secretary. Those are going to be the more important ones, and those people can actually be confirmed, and then they get sworn in on January 20th as well. So some of that process can get started ahead of time. But yeah, I mean, usually for your premier marquee picks when it comes to defense, Homeland Security, state, treasury, those kind of picks, you really do want to make sure you have high talent, good people. I mean, I say that for everyone. And then when you get to some of these other ones, like, oh, well, Secretary of Commerce, Transportation, and not that you want a total dunce head, but you might be more willing to do some pick that says, look, I'm listening to all voices. And that's why George W. Bush put a Democrat in as Transportation Secretary. And then, okay, so now you put a Democrat in, he's given all these projects to his friends. You idiot, don't do that. So if you're going to put a Democrat in, do it like, Tulsi Gabbard or something like that. Right. So she's not going to be totally crazy. But yeah, I mean, these picks, it's usually when you get to ambassadorships where it's like, hey, someone gave, $500,000 to help you get elected president. Okay, you get to be ambassador to Ireland. Go ahead. That's where you get the stuff where you sort of reward your friends. But it's on the high cabinet picks. Usually you want to make sure they perform the job admirably. So that's at least the hope, obviously.
So for the next section, notably, Donald Trump hasn't put anyone up for the Department of Education, namely because he seeks to destroy it.
Yes.
So to summarize, we've touched a nerve on this podcast with our educational takes. I'll be the first to acknowledge that. I think all three of us have been in favor of demolishing the Department of Education for a while now. I think that it is nerve-wracking, again, for people that don't like change and see the Department of Education at the federal level as in charge of education. Right. So Trump came out with a video explaining his he has 10 points on how to change education. And he did a great thing on college that I want to get into too. But first and foremost, I just want to put this up top. So the Department of Education, this is straight from Betsy DeVos, who actually just used to run it. The federal government and Department of Education only supplies 9% of funding for education. So the other 91% is coming at the state level. The rest come from individual states, as I mentioned, but they control then all the strings of what gets mandated at the federal level for education. So they're only putting up 9% of the money, get all the decision making. The philosophical bent of career bureaucrats being enforced in the entire country clearly has not served our educational standards well in America. Right. Clear by just about any metric you'd like to bring up. If you want to talk literacy, I just saw stats saying that half of America can't read stories to their children, which is just unbelievable that I even said that out loud. So as we spend about 3 times per student what many other countries do. It's clearly not getting the return. And so Trump has announced a plan to shut down the education department, safeguard school choice and school prayer, and fight wokeness in public education.
Wait a minute. If we shut down the Department of Education, who's going to hold school lunch money hostage to force schools to open up bathrooms to boys? And gosh,
how will we enforce that?
Actually, the one argument I would take sincerely, which some people would say, there are kids that have special needs, and right now the federal government is able to give money to help schools provide for it. Because if you're a small school, let's say, and you have a kid with special needs, it's a total loss leader economically. I'm not trying to say that in a negative way; it's just a fact.
Yeah,
and the federal government says we'll underwrite that because we want to make sure that these kids with special needs get the help that they need. Guess what? If that's all that the Department of Education did on a federal level, then great. Everyone would be fine with it. It's that they're holding school lunches hostage for, trans bathrooms policies. That's the problem that people have. And again, I mentioned this a few months ago, now I got kids entering college and I just love it. We got this formula now where with FAFSA, again, Department of Education rules, they calculate how much you can afford to pay for your kids' college education. How much of your income could you set aside to pay for kids going to college, right? And by the way, the number they gave for my family, yeah, right. Do you not know I have to feed my children? Right. I mean, my goodness, I still got a massive debt. And it's okay, so if that's how much money you can spend $20,000 a year on your kids' education, that's the total, but they don't consider that. They say that's how much money you have, and that therefore each of your kids should get that money
per child. It's insane.
If I have 20 grand and I have 3 kids in college, that doesn't mean I have 60 grand, you idiots. They're so stupid. The bureaucrats are ridiculous.
Right.
Drives me up the wall.
Erika, general thoughts on the plan. You are the education specialist.
I am in favor of abolishing it, especially as a cabinet level position. The Department of Education, and you can make the argument, well, they aren't responsible for education outcomes. They're just responsible for, establishing federal aid policies. But there's no doubt that one, it was only established in 1980. And I think a lot of people, when they get nervous about, oh my gosh, change, blah, 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 the United States existed in our education system pre-existed the Department of Education. And it was an add-on in the Carter administration going into Reagan during this era of building up this massive big government. And, its key functions, establishing policies on federal financial aid, like Josh said, there can be a role for the federal government in helping states and localities to, for special needs or for special projects. They have utterly failed in that role, and I really don't see it. Why that would continue to be a necessity if states are given control. The Department of Education going away, I think ultimately would be a blessing. It would potentially free states and local school boards from this, from national standards like No Child Left Behind, which was a disaster. And it further cemented the teaching to the test regime that we've had in our schools that has been a disservice to children of all ages, but I would say especially to small children. It has also empowered the teachers union to have this chokehold on teachers, schools, and parents and students.
By design.
They were advocates for the Department of Education, supported the move to classify parents at school board meetings as domestic terrorists. The whole thing has to go away. Could there be a role in the future? Possibly, for the federal government in education, possibly. But where we are now, it's so entangled and we have such a cancer throughout our education system that I honestly think the best policy will be to burn it all down and start again from scratch, which is what Trump is essentially proposing with things like a new accreditation board, with things like which we'll get into in a moment. I'm not going to jump the gun on the college.
Well, and Jeremy Tate, education reformer that he is, he went to a homeschooling conference, he said, back in the day, and someone said we should abolish the Department of Education. And he's like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. And he's like, name one area that our education system has improved since they started the Department of Education in 1979. Oh, wait. And it's like we were number one in the world in education when we started the Department of Education. Now we're down to like 24th. So it's not working.
So I think the origins of the Department of Education are interesting. As you mentioned, 1979, I think specifically it was the Carter administration. And I believe it was actually basically just created to keep accurate federal level records on performance. Supposedly. Right. So originally,
that's ostensibly the reason.
Some financial,
Again,
those are like the two original.
Of course, all, great intentions. What do they say about great intentions? So, but the original intention basically just to keep these standards at the federal level. What it has morphed into today basically would be unrecognizable. I mean, isn't the Common Core standard that started at the federal level? So Department of Education Common Core curriculum, or is that at the state level?
I think it was federal. I'm going to look that up actually.
Okay, but here's my point though, what you're saying, like ostensibly, like, we need standards, we need records across the country so we can tabulate things and see how we're doing. That's the reason why they say that was needed to be created. Right. But ultimately the reason they create this is, again, rewarding the teachers unions who are the stormtroopers for the Democratic Party. I mean, they are the activists that help this party move along and do what it needs to do. I mean, like, give me a break.
So, right. And just quickly on the Common Core, it was developed, it is a set of standards developed by states, but the intention behind the movement of Common Core was for all the states to have the same standards, which is essentially federal. But they're like, no, it's not federal. It was developed by the states because technically the Department of Education does not have the purview over curriculum. However, as we see, because they pull the purse strings, right, as Josh alluded to, if a school, county, or a state says, oh, no to the trans curriculum, they can be like, well, no lunch for your kids then. So
that's what I'm wondering about. Like, trans bathroom policy needs to be national, apparently, to these guys. That's what we need to have nationalized, okay? Trans bathrooms and test scores and everything else. But then like something like, I don't know, voter ID so we have clean elections. States need to be able to decide that. That suddenly you're a federalist. Wonderful. Suddenly you're James Madison. States are supposed to do the elections. I mean, give me a break. These guys are full of baloney.
In the interest of time, let's dig into this. So you mentioned Jeremy Tate. He commented on the college situation, and I do actually. This is just interesting on its
Tuition
face.
costs at colleges and universities have been exploding, and I mean absolutely exploding. While academics have been obsessed with indoctrinating America's youth, the time has come to reclaim our once great educational institutions from the radical left, and we will do that. Our secret weapon will be the college accreditation system. It's called accreditation for a reason. The accreditors are supposed to ensure that schools are not ripping off students and taxpayers, but they have failed totally. When I return to the White House, I will fire the radical left accreditors that have allowed our colleges to become dominated by Marxist maniacs and lunatics. We will then accept applications for new accreditors who will impose real standards on colleges once again and once and for all. These standards will include defending the American tradition and Western civilization, protecting free speech, eliminating wasteful administrative positions that drive up costs incredibly, removing all Marxist diversity, equity, and inclusion bureaucrats, offering options for accelerated and low-cost degrees, providing meaningful job placement and career services, and implementing college entrance and exit exams to prove that students are actually learning and getting their money's worth. Furthermore, I will direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination and schools that persist in explicit unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have their endowments taxed, but through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment. A portion of the seized funds will then be used as restitution for victims of these illegal and unjust policies that hurt our country so badly. Colleges have gotten hundreds of billions of dollars from hardworking taxpayers, and now we are going to get this anti-American insanity out of our institutions once and for all. We are going to have real education in America.
Oof.
I'm not sick of winning yet.
Tall order. Yep. And they're going to resist it every step. They are not going quietly into their dark night, although they should. Lights out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what first comes to mind is at least this feels like a authentic attempt to solve problems that everyone at the kitchen table has complained about for the last, I don't know, however many years. But I remember in my own process trying to go to college and having to play the games with FAFSA and understanding that what I was getting into was going to take me years to pay off. And I had a very reasonable amount of debt. I'm not even talking about the average American. The average American going to a state school, potentially looking at $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in debt, and then also not being paired into a job that would help you pay off the debt. So it's just life-changing debt. I mean, you can't. So I like that this is a little bit more. So what strikes me too as different is this seems much more proactive than reactive. What I saw from President Biden was we're just going to forgive all student loans,
right?
Which of course just lets all these people off the hook for basically scamming.
And it was illegal.
And yeah, and
there's
also
that.
Right. Although if you wanted to do it to a Congress, you could, but yeah,
right.
Unilaterally was illegal, right?
Good luck. But I like that there's a sincere attempt and acknowledgement that something is clearly broken at a university level. How expensive things are, why things are so expensive, and the means to pay for it clearly is out of whack. And that's not something that, say, I can solve on an individual level because if I don't go to college, I potentially lose out on years and years and years of financial gain. So this is where I see Trump taking action from the top, hopefully here, where it's completely necessary. Colleges aren't going to change. They're clearly making money off the system. Students are going to keep getting screwed over. So that's where maybe I pass from being like a pure capitalist. I think this is overdue, necessary, and we need to really make some serious changes.
Yeah. And I hope he has the time to do it. I mean, 4 years is not that long. And this is a This is a big proposal. It's huge, as Donald Trump would say. And I think Jeremy Tate, in his tweet, he identified what he calls the 4 levers that control American education, and Trump's addressing 2 of them. So we have school choice, want to make that universal school choice, school accreditation, which is what he addressed in the video there. And then there's also the whole question of teacher formation and certification and standardized testing. So our education system, like I said, it's so entrenched, and there are so many issues on so many levels that it's a much bigger than a 4-year project. But I think Trump's approach could be a good start.
That's the thing. Conservatives and pro-lifers in general, you need to think of all these different institutions as things that need to be continually reformed and addressed and, corrected and, course corrections. Some of these need years and years and years of reform. Oh, we did that years ago. We're done. Like, no, dude, no, you got a lot of hard work to put into it. A little breaking news.
You're not about to get got, right? Because I think this might be fake.
So right now, Senate Republicans are voting to see who's going to be their next majority leader. Okay. And a lot of conservatives had hoped Rick Scott would be the guy.
Yeah.
He is out. He did not advance. So now it's between John Thune, who came just 4 votes shy of being elected, They're going to another ballot, and I suspect it will be John Thune that will advance. A lot of conservatives were hoping for Rick Scott, who's not like a super conservative really, but he's more pro-Trump than the other guys.
Yeah.
I just hope it's not John Cornyn, and it appears that it will be John Thune, who's still kind of mediocre. But
Josh, can I share what I thought you were going to say and hope you wouldn't share?
Okay.
Statement from President Donald J. Trump. I am honored to announce that I have named Tucker Carlson to serve as White House press secretary.
Okay. Is that like
It's totally fake, dude. I thought you were going to be like breaking news. Tucker Carlson's going to be like,
oh no.
I think better of you, Josh. I didn't think you were going to say that, but I saw some people online saying that this is legitimate. I do not think this is legitimate.
I have better sources than that. Come on. Although on the House side, there's rumors that some conservatives like, let's challenge House Speaker Mike Johnson and have a leadership contest, which what happened? We got rid of McCarthy about a year ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it took like weeks before we elected a new speaker, right? That was a disaster. Imagine if we had that right now and we couldn't actually start the new Congress, couldn't count the ballots who won the election because we were having this fight over speaker. And so I think Trump team was like, no, dude, they put the screws on those people. Like, if you want to have this fight, wait till like March or something, you idiots. Like, you can't do this right now.
Oh, nice.
We got too much stuff to do.
Also, so pre-Twilight Zone, and I had it in the title, so I have to address it. Yes, I like sharing when I am right. My prediction on FEMA turns out to be pretty correct.
Oh, boy.
Demoted. The next morning, they told me verbally I was fired, but they never provided me anything in writing stating that I was fired. They all alleged that these actions were made on my own recognizances and that it was for my own political advances. However, if you look at the record, there is what we call a community trend. And unfortunately, it just so happened that the political hostility that was encountered by my team, and I was on 2 different teams during this deployment, they just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage. FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance, not just in the state of Florida, but you will find avoidance in the Carolinas. Senior leadership will lie to you and tell you that they do not know. But if you ask the DSA crew leads and specialists what they are experiencing in the field, they will tell you. Demand for FEMA to give you those incident reports. They will substantiate what is happening to us in the field.
If I'm going down, you're going down with me.
Hey,
Marnie Washington.
We still have the House. It's still in session. Time for House Republicans, on these investigative committees to put the immediate brakes on any document dumps that these guys might try to do.
The shredding machines are in high dudgeon. But no, I think Marnie, what she's saying here is she's like, look, FEMA has this. This is a widespread policy. And there were a couple of incidents where a few disasters ago where Trump supporters, people with a Trump sign, come out of there. They see FEMA coming up the road to offer them assistance, and they come out with their guns and they say, "Get off my property! I don't want anything from you." And that anger that we've seen, that was just came out. And so as a result, what she's saying is, well, now FEMA's just all over the place. Florida, the Carolinas, just avoid these yards with the Trump signs. And of course, that is absolutely still disgustingly wrong. But yeah, she's just blowing the whistle on this is a widespread policy of FEMA. And
what I love about
can't wait for that hearing.
So which I don't know, she's saying that, it's bigger than her, it's larger than her, it's above her head. She was just following orders. Even if she's just trying to save face, I'm totally fine with that because this potentially could trigger a much higher level investigation into how FEMA operates. Mm-hmm. And if we do catch any high level collaboration or corruption, because even if she is just saying this just to try to get pressure off her back, that's a win. So it's happening in Carolina. She said it. I said it.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Let's just pour the sunlight into FEMA.
It's pretty sick being correct. Okay, Josh, Twilight Zone. Okay,
so all the changes that are happening, we're even seeing some changes on social media, the platform X. So the Washington Post had once hired Jen Rubin to be the voice of conservatives. And it's like, wait a minute, she's not a conservative. She's like a total neocon, and she's a lefty. She keeps moving further and further to the left. So now she's announced that she's leaving Twitter. She's leaving X. And by the way, now so is Don Lemon, the former CNN guy. He's leaving X. And now the Guardian newspaper, this far left-wing newspaper out of the United Kingdom, is leaving X. And I just want to let these guys know, hey, guess what? This isn't the airport. You don't need to announce your departure, okay? Just go. We don't want you. Bye. Bye-bye.
The type of people that need to make that announcement always end up back within like 3 weeks because they need attention.
They do. Here's your bag of attention you're waiting for.
I think the Babylon Bee did a video back before they were famous, but it was a guy like leaving social media, leaving Facebook, and he's at this big party, and he like comes in and he's like, "I'm leaving, guys. No, I'm really leaving, and here are all the reasons why I'm leaving." And the party is like getting more and more bored, and then he leaves. And then 5 seconds later, he hops back into the party holding his baby. He's like, "Look at my new baby! I'm back!" And it was funny. That's about accurate.
Can I share
all
my
right,
favorite?
So now it's win. It's official.
Josh.
John Thune just won the race.
All right. Okay. It's not Cornyn.
It's not Cornyn.
Not Cornyn.
Josh, can I share my favorite picture of Jennifer Rubin?
Oh boy.
Please, let's see your favorite picture. Whoa!
Here's Jennifer Rubin. Gonna zoom in on the shirt here. Rosa sat so Ruby could walk, so Kamala could run.
That aged well.
This is the conservative at the Washington Post.
Well, it used to be. Then she, over like the last 2 years, she finally said like center take because it was like the right take or whatever was her column name. And
isn't it like Jennifer Pro Democracy Rubin or something like that? Like she's pretty insane.
I mean, the thing is, you have these neocons. Like they became Republicans in the 70s and 80s out of concern for crime, and they were able to convince the Republican Party to embrace interventionist foreign policy. Especially, they got like a steroid jump with George W. Bush, with Cheney and all these neocons. And, Bill Kristol was, part of this, and these guys are so mad that how dare Donald Trump run for president? And they would talk about Trump being a flanderer and all that kind of stuff to try to convince Christian conservatives don't vote for him. But the real reason they didn't like him was because he was against the war machine. And so you start to understand what's really going on. Bill Kristol is in love with war. And that's why he was cheering for Kamala Harris to hope that she would win. This is a guy who wrote an article like 15, 20 years ago begging for Roe v. Wade to be overturned. And now he was cheering the Roe v. Wade decision because he doesn't care. He just cares about war. And by the way, as this announcement came out with Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Treasury or Defense, somebody actually unearthed the video from 12 years ago when he was running for the Senate race. And there's Bill Kristol endorsing him because he thought, oh, he's a neocon. I love him.
Wow.
But now he doesn't like him anymore because, he's with Trump. Oh, it's almost like you're full of,
Wait, so saying Liz Cheney is brat didn't work?
Liz Cheney brat.
Shocker. I don't know. It's crazy.
He went over Pennsylvania hardworking blue collar voters by appealing to, Darth Vader's daughter. It's so crazy.
Yeah. Thought that one would have worked for sure. All right, Erika, your Twilight Zone.
All right. So given how my Twilight Zone on Monday fell completely flat, I decided to do deep research on whoever I'm promoting today. Okay. And so I want to just assure everyone that the Twitter post I'm promoting now is definitely not a pro-choice, pro-abortion Catholic. I'm going to highlight Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone. I'm going to go super safe with this one.
It's a safe
but
pick.
I really appreciated this. So we're going to pull it up. First to set it up, The View is still going crazy. My ladies over at The View, my sisters from another mother's, and so let's just play that and see what they're.
Whatever your reason is, I would never let my politics be the reason I don't show up to see my family, because they won't always be there.
I'm going to disagree. I completely understand her point, because I really do feel that this candidate, President-elect Trump, is just a different type of candidate. From the things he's said and the things he's done and the things he will do, it's more of a moral issue for me. And I think it's more of a moral issue for other people. We're just, I would say it was different when, let's say, Bush got elected. You know, you may not
Hitler,
have agreed with his policies, but you didn't feel like he was a deeply flawed person, deeply flawed by character, deeply flawed in morality.
A lot of Dems called him deeply flawed and demonized him.
But you got to admit, they're very different figures. I mean, you know, you along with Milley and along with John Kelly warned us about how deeply flawed he was as a candidate. And so I think when people feel that someone voted not only against their families, but against them and against people that they loved, I think it's okay to take a beat.
So there's Sunny Hostin, who likes to remind us that she was something Catholic once, or she went to Catholic school for like 2 years.
She went to Notre Dame, I believe.
There we go. So Sunny Hostin telling us that, yes, we should divorce our family members who voted for Hitler. Yes. So in a way, you have to admire her consistency. But of course, Archbishop Cordileone says, stay close to your family and friends, even if you disagree. And I just think as we're making our Thanksgiving plans, I know I've talked about disagreements in my family going into the holidays, like you're going to see each other. The most important thing is charity in all things. And I'm not saying that if it gets heated, you can't, you know, firmly say like, what I believe and witness to the truth if asked. But again, don't lose friendships and don't lose family over this election.
I just love the one point, though, that she made. Like, this one is unique. You know, Reagan is Hitler, not like the previous guy. He was great. Jerry Ford was fine. But Reagan is Hitler. And then 4 years later, oh, no. Bush is Hitler. I mean, gosh, it's not like the last guy. It's like the only good Republicans are former Republicans or dead ones. And the current one is always a Hitler. So, yeah, it's almost like you're full of crap.
Or Liz Cheney. Because didn't Whoopi say she wanted Liz Cheney to be the director of the CIA or Department of Homeland Security because she has such a good moral core? I think it was such a good moral core. Direct quote.
Whoopi couldn't find a moral core if she ate it out of an apple. That's just ridiculous. I mean,
well, and the Cheneys can find, you know, they'll find a moral course as soon as they find those weapons of mass destruction.
As soon as they find that oil, baby. Okay. Oh, Erika, did you have another one?
I have one more comment. Yeah, okay. It's actually not this one, but I mentioned at the top of the show, I had a great day yesterday, and it was an amazing day. I filmed 3 long form interviews, and just to put some hay in the barn, as it were. I went from this. These are the people. I went from the optimistic conservative at the New York Times, Ross Douthat. Then I went to classical activists, as I like to call them, the founders of Well-Read Mom, which is actually making a difference in women's lives all over the country by reading great hard books together. Awesome. Then I went to a former, the face of Brazilian feminism and pro-abortion advocacy, through her incredible conversion story, miraculous intervention by, I won't even spoil it. There were saints involved. There was Our Lady involved. It was wild. So those were my 3. And then I ended the day, I got to go and do a class for the homeschool high school civics group that we do. It's 8th through 12th graders. So
sorry, you taught after doing 3 interviews?
Yeah. Well, I co-taught with the woman who in our homeschool group who works for Lila Rose. So we got up there and we did our thing. And
Joe Rogan.
These kids were amazing. They sat through the whole history of abortion in our country, explanations of the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. They asked really good questions, super balanced. So I had a day yesterday where not only am I coming off the Trump election, but also just insane hope for our country at all these different levels, everywhere from New York Times to Brazilian prostitution rings, to homeschool groups doing civics classes. So there is so much hope for our country right now. I am not, I know, I felt like the guy with the red string on the wall all day long. That was my day. But it was wonderful conspiracy. Tinfoil Erika, no, it was great. So I just want to say I am living the cusp of the hopeful wave for our country. And it's a great time to be alive.
Listen, I think Joe Rogan's on notice. I don't think Joe Rogan does 3 interviews and then goes and teaches homeschoolers after. So Joe Rogan, you don't notice.
Joe, I'm available if you want some tips.
Erika and Joe Rogan, man. That'd be awesome. So, but that'd be bad for the program because Erika would have to go be a regular guest and Joe, and then Josh would go be the ambassador to the Vatican.
I don't think you have to worry about it, Pogo.
You know what I mean? Like the whole show would break up. And I would
leave you
just
guys for Joe. You're my guys.
Thank you. There's only one bald guy here.
The real troll idea on the ambassador pick for the Vatican was what Jack Posobiec said. He's like, why don't you just have Trump appoint Bishop Strickland as the ambassador to the Vatican?
So funny.
Dang, dude.
Have to see him every once in a while. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this episode in a podcasting bow. So we started the show talking about government waste and inefficiency. And yes, America, as we've proven today, has plenty of that. However, I think it largely pales in comparison to the waste from our neighbors up north in Canada. I almost could not believe that in my chosen profession that podcasters were making so much money. And no, not in the private sector with advertisements, from the Canadian government, specifically the federal Liberals, okay? So I'm just going to share this tab. We can all enjoy it together, okay? Federal Liberals spent nearly $2 million to produce podcasts. Okay, this is from various government departments and agencies costing big dollars. Here's our guy, Fidel Castro's son. And let's see. Government-produced podcasts cost taxpayers at least $1.7 million. Among the most expensive podcasts was the A-Sayers, of course, EH, Canadian, produced by Statistics Canada, which cost $773,000 to produce 22 episodes. Podcast had 5 full-time staff members, reduced to 3 after December 2022. Now I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, wow, this podcast must be a banger, right? Like this must just be doing views on
Joe
views
Rogan
on
of
views.
Canada. Yeah.
10x us at least.
Right. Like at least better than us or something. Cause I'm like, I'm a hustler. I'll never talk down on people trying to get after it, trying to make something happen. Small number podcasts. I go and check out this podcast produced by the Canadian government, getting almost $1 million. I went to one of their most recent episodes. I think they've since stopped. Let's all take a look together. This is 1 year ago. 271 views on YouTube.
Oh, no.
Oh, dang, bro.
Oh, no.
They don't even have video. They don't even have video for this podcast. And it almost cost $1 million.
Oh, my.
And they have a climate change sticker.
That's so embarrassing.
Guys, I'm not one to number shame again, because I've started at the bottom, right? I've started at the bottom, absolute bottom. And we have our embarrassing old stuff. I'm sure that's out there. I personally do. Guys, if you're going to spend almost $2 million of taxpayer dollars, you got to do better than 227. Canada, what are we doing?
Bro, at least get some maple syrup out of it.
Oh, I love maple syrup. Canada's a great gift.
Canada, guys. Canada is really.
By the way, they have a thing in their system, the parliamentary system, where you don't get to have elections except for every 5 years or whatever. So, like, every poll shows the Conservatives in Canada would like win in a trounce. But, Castro is holding off until he has to have the election by next October. He's going to hold out as long as he can.
Did you hear that their new slogan is "Make Canada Great Again"? Justin Trudeau personally said that he's shutting down immigration in the country. Interesting. Spend a lot of time criticizing us.
Measures you'll do to stay in power. Actually,
a man in full is Justin Trudeau.
Stick to maple syrup and hockey, guys. Justin Bieber's chill. But come on, Canada, get it together. Let's get your numbers up. Everyone go listen to the A-Sayers. You'll add a few views. I think I've added 2 personally because I've had to click on it twice. So
it's a cute name. Clever.
I know. It's kind of boring though. I did listen. I could see why this cool
you
accent,
did listen.
I did. I listened to part of it and I was like, I'm not. You lost me. The accents were nice, but I'd rather watch hockey. Anyway, that does it for this episode of LOOPCast. Again, thank you to our sponsor, Charity Mobile. But if you want to help us out, you can join the Champions Club, www.catholicvote.org/champions. The best way to support the show here. We appreciate all our champions listening. Leave us a review, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe here on YouTube. Thank you to everyone here joining us live in chat. Love having you guys around for the show. See him there on the show. Thank you guys for joining. We do this live.
Tim Hortons coffee, yes.
Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Oh, Tim Hortons is by far the best contribution.
Thank you, Canada.
If we want to get in food fights about that, I think Tim Hortons has the best coffee.
No, I agree. There's no fight there.
It's not even close.
Yeah, we're all in agreement.
3 out of 3.
I will betray the Dunkin' Donuts, the East Coast elite here, and say
I'll say it. Dunkin's is overrated. I've never liked it.
It's gotten really bad. It tastes
like Dunkin' Donuts coffee is great.
No, it's not. The donuts also are not good either. They're like air. It's like they just pump them up and then put them out there, and they're disgusting. Go get some
Donuts
Timbit.
coffees are 1,000 times better though than that stuff and that trash they have in the South. Those Krispy Kreme donuts.
Oh, that
just
coffee.
right off the conveyor belt and put them right into the trash can.
You've made your thoughts well known on Krispy Kreme at this point. Yeah, maybe we'll get into coffee wars.
I'm not shy, people. I tell what I feel.
Yeah, go get some Tim's. Although it's not available. It's actually not available in every state because it's only like up north. So most of the time it's a Canadian thing or just like northern states. So I apologize to our brothers in the South who don't get to taste Timmy's. Anyway, good episode, guys. Thank you all for joining us. Appreciate you all very, very much. Pray for us. St. Thomas More, Our Lady of Guadalupe, St. Fidelis, pray for us. And we will see you guys